Welcome to the next interview in our 44 New Voices interview series. I'm joined by DeShuna Spencer, the founder and CEO of kweliTV. So thank you so much, DeShuna, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So as one of our 44 New Voices, we're talking to people about how they started their companies, their ventures, whatever they're doing. So can you talk to us a bit about how you decided to launch kweliTV?
Yeah, I remember flipping through cable many years ago, not really finding anything that I could relate to, or I didn't really see myself. I didn't see my father, I didn't see my mother, my siblings, anyone, none of my friends. And I was really discouraged by, how we were portrayed in the media, and I was looking for something else. And when I couldn't find it, the light bulb hit off, and I was like, maybe I'll start a streaming service. Which, who says that when they're flipping through something? I'm gonna start a company that's super hard to start. It's like I'm starting like a ice cream stand. Like, there's Netflix and Disney Plus. There's so many other companies out here, and it's a very expensive business to get into. But I also did see an opportunity. I love independent films, and I couldn't find them unless I travel to a film festival. I like history. And even if you turn on the history on February, you're like, where are the black people? Like, you just, like, maybe a one little Martin Luther King documentary, and then they do something on Rosa Parks. But other than that, like, it's kind of bare, even on Black History Month. And so that's where it kind of started from there. I just really wanted to see myself represented, and I wanted to see the history that I didn't learn in the history books. And I wanted to learn about Black culture outside of the US that sometimes mainstream media didn't really get a chance to tell. And that's pretty much how it got started. And from there, we started the company. It was that simple, right? No, it was totally not that simple. It's been one of the hardest things I've ever done before my entire life, and I've been a caregiver twice actually, and this is still up there in the top three things that's been really super hard for me. Um, when I decided I wanted to start the company, I had no idea what I was doing or how I would make it happen. I had an online magazine. Starting a magazine, I wouldn't say it's simple, but it's easier. The barriers to entry is much lower. You get a WordPress site or maybe a Squarespace blog site, and voila, you're in business. Pretty much. When it comes to a streaming service, there's so many more things involved, especially when it comes to technology. And I didn't understand the tech space. I didn't understand how to license content. I didn't know any of that. And it was a huge learning curve for me. So I spent a good amount of time initially just trying to understand how can I actually make this happen. And that's when I started to learn about pitching and VCs. I didn't know what a VC was. I didn't know you talk to investors. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know the barriers that Black women have to get access to capital. I started learning these things as I started my journey. I didn't know anything about the various tech space and what you need, like the various tools and the developers you need to make it happen. I didn't know any of that. Um, I didn't understand. I never understood how expensive it was to acquire content, and now I understand why they make so much content, because it's expensive to get friends. It's expensive to get season of girlfriends. Like, it's very expensive, and so now I get it. And at the time I didn't, and like, these are all things I really had to learn. Like, basically concrete, hit your head, bust your head wide open, sort of type of epiphany. And from there, when I decided I wanted to do this no matter what, I tapped into resources, people who I knew. When I had my online magazine, one of our board members, he was a developer, and he basically helped me sort of navigate the developer phase. I didn't understand what an MVP was. I assumed that everything had to be perfect right away. And one of the things that he told me was that at least need to have a product that works, that's basic, that sort of proves that people want it, like people want to pay for it. And that's kind of where the next journey was. Once I did the research, okay, how do I build my MVP? How do I build this beta version to at least prove the concept to potential investors, whoever else need to see whether, even to myself. And I'll be honest, like, When I was working on the beta, when we were working on the beta, not myself, I'm not a technical founder. Also, I wasn't tinkering around any code. The site would have been really worse than what it was. I was afraid to release the beta. I was afraid to see whether or not people wanted it. Like you start going this journey and you want people, you think you know what people want, and you're not sure, so you build this beta hoping that people will buy into the ideal. But at the same time, like, what if they don't? Like, what do you do? And so I was super nervous about releasing it to the world. Like, what if no one wants it? What if no one's going to get it? But that's what you have to do. You can't build the big shebang. You have to start small. You have to prove your concept first. And if people don't want it, doesn't mean that you can't build the exact thing. You just have to maybe tweak it or change it, pivot a bit to kind of create, still keep your vision, but create what the customers are looking for. And that's kind of how I got started from there initially.
Wow, that is so much. You mentioned like so many things, the different processes to like get your company off the ground. Can you talk a bit about at the beginning, like what's the intention? You mentioned you didn't see yourself in media and you didn't see people like you on TV and in streaming. So how did you decide to come up with the idea for your company, and what really is kweliTV?
Yeah, so Kweli, it's a Swahili term. It means truth in Swahili. And so our mission is to create content that shows a true reflection of the global Black experience. Um, the mission behind Kweli TV is really simple. We want to change the Black narrative. We want to change how we see ourselves and how other people see us. One of the things that really triggered me, and of course, how I see ourselves in the media is super important, but seeing things that happen with Terrence Crutcher or Sean Bell or other Black people who have been murdered, or the Karens of the world that call the police on Black people for doing the mundane things, just trying to live our lives. And it's because of their perception, right? Wouldn't necessarily think to call the police if we're at Starbucks and we're waiting for a meeting, or we're bird watching and we're just trying to, go about our day. And so that's one thing. Like, I see ourselves as a mission-driven company. Another important aspect was also understanding that for people of color, particularly Black people and women, getting distribution is very difficult once they finish their film festival run. 98% of our films have been to film festivals. And despite that, most of our content creators have had difficult times getting distribution on other platforms. They're not getting those meetings. While, Netflix has a strong Black lead, they're giving a strong Black leads to people who are already out there, the same recycle, which is great. I'm so happy for all the Black creators who be getting opportunities, but it's the same ones getting the opportunities on different platforms. We're creating space for up and coming talent who haven't been noticed yet, that they can't get in the door, and we're just giving them an opportunity to showcase their work. And so that's another important aspect of what kweliTV is doing, I would say, compared to what others are doing, and why we do what we do. Hopefully I answered that question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, Going back to before kweliTV, the first thing you did out of college wasn't, like you said, it wasn't just like launching a streaming service. You studied journalism at Jackson State University. You worked as a journalist and as a radio host. So how have those kind of experiences helped you, especially in telling the stories you want to tell?
I think that journalists are really good at storytelling in general. I think we also have a knack at finding and understanding what a good story is and seeing a good story. And so I think that's like my strong point. People are like, wow, these stories are amazing. Like, yeah, because it's highly curated. Like, I watch everything, and it's really helped me be able to craftily curate, content specifically for our customers. Yeah, you're right. When I was at Jackson State, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna start a streaming service. I think Netflix at the time, they were still slinging, they weren't creating original programming. When I was at Jackson State University, they were, still trying to figure things out themselves at the time. And so for me, I initially wanted to be a business owner, but I was thinking more like an online magazine, which I did. I said I did start. I never envisioned that I would be doing this. Although in high school, I did work at Blockbuster before it imploded. So I always had a love for film, but never in a million years did I see myself sort of, having this type of company. And the truth be told, it wasn't like I quit overnight. I think a lot of times people see like, oh, wow, she's so brave. I did put things into place. My husband and I, we put things into place to be able to do this. When I was thinking about starting kweliTV, at the time, I was sort of winding things down with my online magazine. And I was also a contractor for an organization I was working for at the time, and my husband and I, we were paying off our debt. So right now we're debt free, minus a house. We're trying to pay it off too, but it allowed me to be able to pursue this company full time while taking a very small salary to do it full time, so I wouldn't have to worry about going into work and things like that. So I did put some things in place to make this happen. It's not like I'm quit and wow, she's just making it happen. No, it wasn't super calculated. It wasn't like I said, I'm going to quit my job and do this. I was working as a contractor, and they decided to let my contract go. And at the time, we had just paid off all of our debt, and it was just the perfect timing to say, okay, if I'm going to really dive in this and give it not 100%, but like 200%, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're not giving 100%. You're eating, sleeping, drinking your company. Everything else is second fiddle, even your family, unfortunately, to make it happen.
Yeah, so you mentioned it wasn't just overnight. It was a lot of processes in order to like make the foundation, in order for it to be able to do what you're doing. So what was the factor that encouraged you to launch, that you were like, okay, I want to put these foundations in place to take Kweli full time and over full time?
I think life happens where you don't expect it to, right? And so when I was thinking about kweliTV, I still, in the back of my mind, even though I was winding down my online magazine, I was still hoping that like, maybe I can make that work. I'm a failure because, Empower didn't live up to what I thought it would be. But at the same time, I was really excited about what this other thing could be. I was so scared. Starting an online magazine was easy for me. I worked in media. I could write, with one brain tied behind my back. But starting this was just so extremely difficult. I wasn't sure if I can pull off. Even sometimes I still doubt if I can still, be like, wow, you're doing it. Like, every day is still, a roller coaster for me. When I was a contractor for this company, so initially I was a full-time employee for them. And at the time, I remember like I was on bed rest and I had surgery. I was 4 weeks into my 8th week of being off of work. And I got a call from the VP of the company saying that they were having some financial problems and they were looking to potentially downsize, get rid of the magazine, which is my job, and outsource the magazines, the e-newsletters, the video production, the social media, all the things that I was doing for them. And so I was like, well, that's my job. It's like, well, we should really worry more about saving the company and saving ourselves. I was like, okay. And so my husband came home from work and I was like, what do you feel about me being your health insurance? He's like, what do you mean? And so literally while on bed rest, I crafted up this proposal to them saying, hey, I can save you money, make me a contract instead of outsource it to me as an independent contractor, and we'll downsource all these different things and we will save you about $100,000. And I sent the email out maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock that morning, I got an email from them saying, it looks good, let's do it. And that was like the last time ever I went back to work finally after being off of bed rest. And my first day back at work was my last day at that job. I packed up my stuff and I became an independent contractor. And then from there, my husband and I continued to continue to pay off all of our debt. And literally the month we pay off our debt was when they decided to end my contract with them. And I started to go full steam ahead with kweliTV. So it wasn't like, I just quit. It was really these things happen that, but at the same time, still preparing. Like I always tell people, like, don't prepare because you don't know what's going to happen. Like if my husband, if we weren't focused on paying off our debt, then I would have been out of a contract and we would have this debt. And then I've been trying to run this company. I wouldn't have been able to. I would have had to find another full-time job. But because I was preparing, for whatever could happen. Then when something happened where I no longer had that sort of safety contractor job, we had the resources saved up. We had an emergency fund with everything we needed in order for me to sort of really pursue this full time.
Yeah, and to do that takes a lot of courage to be able to like have like the belief in yourself that like even though you don't know what's coming next, that like no matter what comes at you, you can like pull through it. So how did you overcome some of, if you had doubts within, like even if they were small doubts within yourself, and then when you go to investors, you know, being a woman of color, trying to get people to believe in your company and invest in you as well, how did you overcome any of those barriers?
So you have to fake the funk. I mean, like, I always admire people like, I don't have fear. I do. I have lots of fear. I just do it afraid, you know. As a kid, I grew up in a very religious household and my parents were very strict. And so there were things I wanted to do as a kid that my parents wouldn't allow me to do, but I did it anyway because I wanted to do it. And so I've always sort of had that sort of like, you're not gonna tell me I can't do it. So I always tell people just fake the funk. Even if you're nervous, just don't exude that, you know, like tell yourself something, look in the mirror, say I aspire, whatever, whatever you need to tell yourself, I'm beautiful, whatever. Like whatever you tell yourself, like just do that and go out and rock it. And then you can be insecure. There are times when, I've had like the most crushing defeats. I cry and then the customer needs something and I have to wipe my tears and get to work. Like it's okay to be afraid you're gonna fail, but just know that you have to pick yourself back up and keep going. If you believe in this mission, if you believe in what you're building, it's not gonna happen overnight. People are not gonna believe what you're doing. People are gonna leave you. Like I have PSTD from people like leaving me, from people who are like, oh, I'm gonna be with kweliTV forever. And then like we don't raise our money and then they ghost. And so all those things stay with you, but you really have to just stay persistent if you believe that this is for you. And it's okay to pivot if you feel like it's not, but just know that we're all like in this together. No one is perfect. Even the investors, like if an investor wants to talk to you, like look at it as a privilege, right? You're giving them the opportunity to invest in your company and that they can reap the benefits from, and stuff like, oh my God, like I used to have like my mentality was very different early on when I was when I was talking to investors. Like I'm privileged that they want to talk to me. No, they should be privileged to want to talk to me, because if my company's successful, we IPO, then they're going to reap the benefits from my hard work. And that's how you should look at it when you talk to investors. If you look at it from that lens, then I think it would be less about being afraid, but really more about, let me put my best foot forward to best represent my company to this potential investor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really powerful mentality to have too, because once you make that kind of switch, I feel like when you walk in, people can really sense that from you, and they believe in you more when you like believe in yourself as well, as cheesy as that sounds. So who have been some of your biggest influences or mentors that have also helped you build like a really like strong mindset like that?
So I've had a couple of people along the way. Like one of my mentors, her name is Alice Mayat. I got connected with her through this organization called Vocal, and she was my mentor for the year. And even that was 2 years ago, and she's still my mentor. We don't talk as much now, but at least like every quarter, we check in. But she is this dynamic Black woman. She basically helped build PBS Kids back in the day and Nickelodeon. She has an array of experience, and she's really been my soundboard for a lot of things when it comes to, am I making the right decisions? Should I do this? Should I do that? And honestly, I've had some really good girlfriends who, of course, before COVID, we would have our, I would say as an entrepreneur, I don't get out that much. I'm not socializing. I'm like the worst at social media because I'm just working. But every once in a while, you have a one friend or two, we'll go out for a glass of wine and we do brunch and drink a bunch of mimosas and just really talk it out and strategize. If you're an entrepreneur and you just need that one or two good friends that you can really sort of lay your hair down with, like to me, that's inspiration. A lot of times we look at mentors and like, I want to talk to Oprah, and she's like, which is great. I would love to meet Oprah. It'd be amazing if she were my mentor. But I think sometimes we should look even within our own friends and draw from them and inspiration from what they're doing, because there are people who who are within your circle that are doing amazing things, and you can bounce things off of, and may even give you really good insight and good ideas. And so I've really been focusing on that. I used to spend so much time like emailing people. Will you be my mentor? Almost like I'm a little puppy looking for like a home. I just stopped doing that and say, okay, I'm going to just focus on who is within my circle, and the people who will be my mentors, they will come eventually.
Mm-hmm. What is one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from your friends and your mentors?
I would say that what is interesting, one of my friends, she always tells me, DeShuna, you see yourself differently than how the world sees you. Like, I'm so critical of myself. I think as humans, we're just, we're self-critical. I'm the type of person where I evaluate everything. Ever since I was a kid, I would have a conversation with someone, and then I would get off the phone like, did I say that correctly? Did I offend this part? Like, I'm a self-evaluator. I've always been that way, and so because of that, I probably over-evaluate. I'm overly like, I'm not. This isn't good enough. Blah blah. And so my friend always tells me, DeShuna, I wish you would see yourself how other people see you. And so I'm trying to sort of take in that moment when people say, wow, DeShuna, you built this amazing, or you're brilliant, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'm just working on my house, trying to make a difference. And I'm really trying, instead of just doing that, I'm really just trying to live in that moment and take it all in, and not just always sort of focus on, okay, I need to be better and improve myself.
Absolutely. I definitely struggle with that as well. It's so easy to be able to just pick apart the things that you do when you don't have like that wide lens of like this realm of like not only, the failures that you've had, but also the successes. So what are one of the things that you're most proud of that you've accomplished?
Wow, one of those things I'm proud of, I would just say, honestly, launching this company, just getting it off the ground. I think there are so many people who want to do something. Like, I mean, so many people is like, I want to start a business, and they hope and they dream. Most people actually don't make it happen. And I think that anyone who at least takes initiative to go beyond something in their head and to make it work, like, you have crossed half the battle. I know a lot of people who have amazing ideas, and I talk to them over and over again. They just don't pull that trigger. It's just something about, maybe it's fear, or they get bogged down with life. I don't know, but it's just hard to kind of take the next step to actually say, okay, let's put the one foot in front of the other, and let's take the next step and next step and next step to actually launch this thing. And so just launching it was like, I have a streaming service, for God's sake, like, okay, right? This isn't an easy task. And I would say the biggest full circle for me came this year when we were listed as one of the top 10 best movie streaming services by PC Magazine for 2020. We were under like HBO Max. Like, what the? My little baby company that I started with initially $20,000 is listed with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Peacock and these multi-billion-dollar companies. And my engine, the little engine that could company, is right within the mix. Like, that alone is, I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of that.
Amazing. You're telling so many stories through your streaming service, distributing and like giving a platform to so many stories. You've also done some of your own work as well. In 2013, you did your first documentary, Mom Interrupted. So what are some other stories that you're still really interested in telling that you have yet to tell?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? There are so many stories I would love to tell, because I love history. I think one of the things I really want to dive into is telling more global Black history, before slavery, about life for people of African descent. I also want to tell stories about, there's this one series I have in my head about creating, is about sort of, how Black people, how we sort of, how we came to where we got to around the world, whether it's Brazil or the US or Europe, because colonialism or because of slavery, and sort of how our culture sort of mixed with their culture and created, this new culture, right? You look at places like Jamaica or as I mentioned, Brazil, Venezuela. When it comes to music and dance in other parts of the world, like people of African descent have created their own flavor and create our own subculture. So I would really love to sort of do a deeper dive into what it looks like in different parts of the world, like how we got there, and how we sort of flipped the script. Of course, for a lot of it, it was a very sad beginning, but because we're a resilient group of people, we've been able to make something magical out of it. And so I'm really excited to hopefully be able to do that. In addition to that, I'm not sure if you know, but Laurel Howery, who is a comedian, has joined as head of comedy for kweliTV. And so he's going to be working on some original programming as well, and introducing some up and coming comedic talent, Black talent to kweliTV.
Absolutely. And you mentioned subculture, which is really subculture because they're not necessarily mainstream, right? Everyone doesn't get the chance to get into them. So can you talk about some interesting up and coming creators that you have your eye on that may be in subcultures that people don't really know about?
Sure. So today we released some content to our platform, and one young man, he's 23 years old, his name is Zul, and he has a Tanzanian web series. It's a animated, almost like The Simpsons, but family friendly, and it's about a family from Tanzania who immigrated to the U.S. And it's really about the culture clash. Them just trying to be in America, and some of the nuances of being Black and being African, and in a very comedic way. He wrote, directed, he does most of the voiceovers for for this series. He taught himself animation. He does probably about 90% of the series himself. Like, what in the world? Like, but that's resiliency, right? People say, oh, I want to do something. Don't tell me what you can do, because this young man is able to create this hilarious series, and he's doing most of the work himself. And it's a super funny series. I can definitely see becoming like a Simpsons over time, like, really growing and maturing over time. There's another series on the platform called Juju the Web Series. She's based in the US, and it's about witches, but Black witches. And so there has been this talk lately on Black Twitter about where's the Black sci-fi, where's the Black, where are the Black witches. And so we're in a space that we can do that, and it's from a sort of a from a Caribbean type of lens, like, some of the characters, they're family, they're from the Caribbean. So it ties that together. And people who know about the Caribbean know there's been some, like, folklore about, about witches and all those things there. And so it ties it all together, which makes it a very interesting series. And I think she's from the Caribbean as well. I don't want to say where, because I'll like mess it up, and it's like, I'm actually from blah blah blah. So I'm not gonna say where she's from, but her family is Caribbean. And so those types of stories you don't really hear about. One of the interesting things about being on kweliTV is, like, when we talk about African diaspora, people tend to not think about Australia, but we have a couple of titles from Australia on the platform. It's about Black culture there and what it means to be Black, and you would never have thought about, oh yeah, we're everywhere, right? And so to me, it's definitely a subculture, and they see our platform as a way, like, wow, now we have a space in which we can talk about what it's like to be Afro-Australian or be Indigenous Australian, because even the Indigenous there, they see themselves as being Black. And so, we see ourselves as really being sort of changing the game when it comes to telling Black stories, because a lot of other platforms tend to think of it as like a one lens of what it means to be Black. They, for us, we see it as a global lens, and I'm really excited to sort of showcase all the different types of stories that we have on the platform.
And moving forward, what are some of the things, what's next for kweliTV? What can we look out for in the future, in addition to the shows you mentioned?
Yeah, so we're looking to open up a crowd equity round. For people who aren't familiar with it, it's like crowdfunding, but instead of getting a t-shirt, you actually get a piece of the company, you get shares in the company. And we're opening this up hopefully soon, in the next couple of weeks. It will allow our customers, our followers, even our filmmakers to be able to own a piece of the pie. And so when people say, I'm a subscriber to kweliTV, but I'm also own a piece of the company as well. So I'm really excited about that. With those funds, we hope to be able to create some short form programming, we want to make our website multilingual. Right now, about 81% of our customers are in the US, and that means, that 19% are outside of the US. So we want to make our site more multilingual, our platform more multilingual, so we can cater to our growing multilingual audience. And yeah, I'm really excited about sort of where things are going, looking at creating a crowdfunding platform exclusively for our filmmakers on that platform. That way they can be able to create more content. So lots of great things on the horizon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's really it. That's all I have for you. Where can people go subscribe to kweliTV?
Sure, they can go to our website, www.kweli.tv. You can subscribe on our website. Just click the orange join button. And once you subscribe, you can use any of our apps. We're on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, Android TV, iOS, Google Play for Android. So once you subscribe to the website, just use your email address and password, and you're ready to rock and roll on any of our apps.
Awesome. Thank you so much, DeShuna.
Thanks. This is fun.